What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Just Hanging with the Nosebleed Seats. This is episode 7. Episode 6 was like 3 years ago. Eric's been nursing all sorts of injuries, and Zach actually hasn't really been able to talk just out of the pain and sorrow for Eric's injuries. But it seems like Eric's good. Not sure about Zach, but we are back together.
Yeah, man, it feels really, really good to be back. My hips are much better. The off season, the hip torque got a little out of control here, but we've figured it out, and I'm back in the game.
A lot of gyrating, a lot of thrusting, but the fact that he's healthy means, man, my voice is miraculously back. It's a miracle.
Now, Zach has threatened to hold out in a couple months, so we'll hopefully bring this to you every week, but until Zach holds out, we're going to do the best we can. Once Zach holds out, kind of out of our control, right, Eric? I mean, he's just so greedy.
Yeah, there's only so much we can do with a guy like that, but not all stories have a happy ending. It looks as though this one has for now.
Okay, so we're going to get to what's that?
For now. I think you need to stress for now.
Yes, for now, says the greedy one.
For now, dude.
All right, so if you're unfamiliar with what we're going to do here, we'll definitely talk some sports, definitely have some fun. Let's start with the sports. The Cowboys are 1-3. Despite the fact they're 1-3, they still have a great chance to win the division, but they've been an embarrassment, especially on the defensive side. We're 4 games in, and gosh, I'd like to say we're 4 out of 16, but who knows with COVID. But we're, in theory, a quarter of the way through the season. A lot can change. But so far, what are the things that we feel like we've misidentified about this Cowboys team? And I'll happily start, throw myself under the bus. First of all, and I think I had arguments with Zach on air about this during Nosebleed Seats. I didn't think Alden Smith was going to be worth a damn. So I'll actually start with a positive. Alden Smith's been way better than I thought. I also didn't think Alden Smith and Joe Thomas were going to be the 2 best players on the defense. I don't think any of us thought this defense was going to be good, right? I didn't think the secondary would be good. I didn't think the linebackers would be good. As a matter of fact, I think the way the linebackers have performed, at least the 2 big names, probably how most people thought. Vander Esch would get hurt and Jalen Smith has sucked. I just thought you'd get more out of the defensive line. I'm surprised that the Cowboys have not gotten more out of the defensive line. I know Gerald McCoy's injury maybe impacted that, but it really shouldn't have had too much of an impact. That's where I think I misstepped. And then, you know what? I feel like a sucker for buying into like Mike McCarthy was going to, come in and be so different and progressive and this and that, because really, I mean, if he's not calling plays, just in my experience with him in Green Bay, what's he really doing? If Kellen Moore's calling plays, and there's nothing wrong with the offense is great, but like, I just don't know what Mike McCarthy's, what his fingerprints on this team really are. But I think the biggest thing as far as wins and losses, the D line, specifically DeMarcus Lawrence being in a witness protection program.
Yeah. And to piggyback off that, my biggest miss for sure, since this guy didn't even make the roster, was good old Clinton Dix. And Jared, you said, hey, might get a pick for you week 1, and then he's going to just not show up. And if you've seen how terrible the safety play is, the fact that Clinton Dix couldn't make this roster, that dude must be absolutely atrocious. So the Cowboys are still searching for safeties. I'm still out there just ready to get pumped about whoever the hell they sign, because anybody right now would help what's going on in that secondary. But I think it's got to be the pass rush and the defensive line, right? Because we all agreed the secondary is going to be absolutely horrible. But we were pumped about, okay, they finally signed Everson Griffin, something Eric and I were all about this offseason. You mentioned I liked Alden Smith. I thought he was going to provide something. Then DeMarcus Lawrence. If you got Randy Gregory back, which might happen in a couple of weeks, you had Dontari Poe, also another miss. I was very excited about finally getting a big body in the middle to try and eat up space, take up some offensive linemen to try and keep your linebackers clean. And Dontari Poe has been one of the worst players I've ever seen in my life. He shouldn't be in the NFL. And the fact that they just refused to even try and sign a Damon Snacks Harrison, who in fairness might not be good anymore either. But right now, he's got to be at least an option that could possibly give you something that Dontari Poe isn't giving you, which is nothing. So, for me, it's clearly the defensive line. Offensively, I think it's still difficult to somewhat judge. They're putting up a lot of points, but they're playing from behind. I don't think we've really gotten to see, offensively exactly what they want to do totally, because, the game script's just gotten so out of whack for 3 out of these 4 games. But the pass rush, Clinton Dix, and Dontari Poe, for me, I swung and missed hard.
Okay, so I would like to just say one thing in regards to the offense. They are not blameless here in this 1-3 start with the turnovers. I mean, the turnovers, as bad as the defenses has been, the turnovers offensively might be your biggest issue right now. And you would like to think that could be corrected. After the Atlanta game in week 2, you felt like, okay, we got like all the turnovers out of our system. There's no way we can keep turning the ball over like that. And, they've continued to just have ridiculous turnovers, whether it be the fumbles, Zeke fumbling, it's inexcusable, sack fumbles, and that's a coaching issue with the Terrence Steele thing, where they're sacking Dak for the fumble there with Myles Garrett. The turnovers offensively have been a huge issue. But in terms of things that I thought were going to take place when I was projecting this team in the offseason and in training camp, and then where we find ourselves now, I think you guys are spot on with the defensive line as a whole. But I would specifically say for me, Everson Griffin on the negative side. I really thought he was going to be a good player in 2019 with the Vikings. He was a really good player. And really for the last half decade with the Vikings, he's been a really, really good player, 3-down player, a guy who can set the edge in the run game and then get after the passer as well, pressuring the quarterback, hitting the quarterback. I thought that was a huge get right before training camp. That has been a massive dud. And then on the flip side, like you mentioned, Jared, Walchuk was all about Alden Smith saying this guy's going to go get 8 or 9 sacks. And I couldn't bring myself to think, hey, a guy who hasn't played in 5 years is going to make this much of an impact. But the dude's been really, really good. So hats off to him for that. And then another one for me is, offensively, we all felt like, hey, maybe let's incorporate Tony Pollard a little bit more into this thing. Yeah. This guy just seems like he's an explosive player. Good things happen when he's on the field. Last year in 2019, Jason Garrett, Kellen Moore felt like they handcuffed him a little bit. He wasn't getting enough snaps. Well, fast forward to now, and it's like, I want this dude off all special teams, never return a kick for me ever again. Offensively, you haven't done much for me. You're dropping passes. You can't pass protect. And our offensive line's not helping him a ton in the run game, but he really hasn't done anything in the way of, wow, this guy is helping our team. If anything, he's been a huge detriment to your team. And that was a guy that I felt like, man, he just adds another layer of speed and versatility and big playability. And that dude has been not just not good, but he's been absolutely awful.
So, and I'll throw a positive negative on the offense as well. Like I didn't expect Dalton Schultz to be, this productive. Obviously, we didn't expect him to get the reps because Blake Jarwin, in our mind was going to be healthy, but Dalton Schultz has been really good. I think Zeke's been bad. I'm actually incredibly disappointed in Zeke. Now, some of this might be a product of playing from behind and having to be so pass heavy, but that's also inflated his receiving stats. He's on pace for more receptions, more yards in the passing game than ever before, but there's nothing that he does in the passing game that any other running back couldn't do. Like I remember having this discussion over the offseason, ranking the running backs, and like McCaffrey and Barkley definitely ahead of Zeke. And, I personally thought Nick Chubb was better than Zeke, but like Alvin Kamara seemed to be a sticking point for some because, it's not like Alvin Kamara is a 1,500-yard rusher, but Alvin Kamara is so good in the passing game. And all these Zeke stands told me, no, but Zeke can do the same thing. The Cowboys just don't, but Zeke can do it. No, he can't. Zeke sucks if you put him in the slot. Zeke is not good in the passing game. I think Cowboys fans, we hold on to that screen against Pittsburgh a few years back when he went like 70 yards or whatever and thought, oh, this guy's going to be great in the passing game. No, he's not. Yeah, you can put him out in the flat. You can use him as safety valve for Dak. And you know what? Because this offensive line is, he's going to get catches. And listen, Zach, you look unathletic. Eric, you might be somewhat athletic. I'm athletic. If you stuck any of us 5 yards from Dak and he flipped us the ball, we could all freaking catch it. All right. Like, this guy's not good in the passing game, and he's averaging less than 4 yards per carry in the running game. A team in which you would think that the defense would be so fixated on the pass, it should open things up, and they're playing from behind. Teams are going to just, play the pass to not give up the big play so they can't get back in the game. I'm so frustrated. Zeke to me has been bad. If his name was Bob McGee, and, it's player A, player B, player C, whatever, Zeke's not a top 10 running back in the NFL right now. He's just not. Maybe his best asset is his pass protection. That's probably his best asset to this team right now. He does that really well. But catching passes, running the ball, he's not doing anything that other running backs in the NFL couldn't do.
And for the record, Walchuk's sneaky athletic, all right? And then also, if his name was Bob McGee, I don't believe he would have made it to the NFL strictly on his name being Bob McGee. There's just no way he could have been a good player.
Stephen McGee, was an NFL player for a little bit.
For a half a second, you're right. But Walchuk, please continue.
Yeah, so I'm with you on the receiving portion of Zeke. I think that's been a fallacy that we've just all said, I think it's what's the phrase that Chris Arnold loves to use? Weaponize the running back.
Time flies.
Zeke can't be weaponized out of the backfield. Like, I think that's pretty. That's we know that now, right? You're 100% right. He's not the caliber of a weapon as a receiver as an Alvin Kamara, who I think got forgotten this offseason when we were talking about the best running backs because he missed all last year. Kamara has been absolutely brilliant this season for New Orleans. But I disagree. I think Zeke is a runner. He's looked the best maybe since his rookie year as just a pure runner the first 4 weeks of the season. He actually is doing a decent job of being a little bit elusive, breaking some more tackles, shows a little bit more juice. The problem is when you're down 4 scores, now you're just having to throw the football, and Zeke becomes pretty much a non-factor because, to your point, he's not a guy that's going to be a game breaker in the passing game at all. He really is just a check down safety valve. So I agree. I mean, in that asset, you could put Tony Pollard in there. You could have put – who Mr. Chun, whoever it is that you want to put out there. But as a runner, I think Zeke's looked pretty good. I think the issue for him is the fumbles. The fumbles are inexcusable. It's something that really hasn't been a problem for him for most of his career, but it's a problem now. And the fumbling is something he's got to clean up. And that's also another factor, to your point with the offensive turnovers, why this team's playing so far from behind and why Zeke's become absolutely a non-factor and written out of the game script and the flow during these football games. So I agree with some of what you said. I do agree 100% with the pass pro. I think he's the best pass protecting back in the league. But as a runner, I really don't think Zeke's been bad at all.
I see. Here's my issue. He's had like one run of more than 15 yards. There's like no game break in him whatsoever. He's at, like I said, averaging less than 4 yards per carry, less than 5 yards per touch. I just don't think there's anything that he's doing that an above average running back couldn't do. Like, there's nothing about him where it's like, wow, like that's Zeke. Like, even Saquon with a horrible offensive line, like, does things where it's like he got away from like 3 guys behind the line of scrimmage and turned like a negative 3 yard gain into like a 2 yard gain. And it was like impressive because the Giants are that awful. Like, there's just nothing. I don't know. I'm sure Zeke maybe wears down linemen or linebackers because, he's not like a tiny guy, but I watch other running backs and I think they do the exact same thing Zeke does and maybe even better.
Yeah, I think the thing with it always goes back to, and it's part of the why you really shouldn't pay running backs, and it's not just because they age poorly and at a disproportionate rate than other positions, but it's also because they are so dependent on the things around them. They're dependent on that really awesome offensive line. DeMarco Murray can run all over the NFL when he has the best offensive line in the league. Ezekiel Elliott, even more so with the talent that he had coming in as a rookie, second-year guy. You give him the best offensive line in the league, he's going to be great. But as soon as you lose Tyron Smith, Lael Collins, Joe Looney goes down, whatever it may be, you're shuffling things around. You got Connor Williams. Now all of a sudden, Zeke, even though he might be still a really solid running back, his offensive line's not good, and now he's not good. The Cowboys' success rate, the Cowboys' expected points added when they're running the football compared to when they pass is head and shoulders different. They have negative expected points added when they run the football, and they're one of the better passing teams in the league. They're not a good running football team. I don't know that they have a ton of creativity schematically in their run game. You know, you have guys like Kyle Shanahan in the league that give them just any running back and it doesn't matter. And as long as George Kittle's on the field, they can run the football. And it's
or
like
he'll hand the ball to George Kittle.
Right. Or they'll hand the ball to George Kittle.
That is a beautiful running game.
But I do think there is something too. We have to remember about Zeke is just stylistically. You mentioned a guy like Saquon, and it becomes a preference thing. What do you prefer in your running back? Zeke's not the home run hitter. He was his rookie year. He really hasn't been since. I do think I agree with Walchuk in that we've seen a little bit more elusiveness. We've seen a little bit more explosiveness, but it hasn't amounted to big plays, which is frustrating. Jared, it's a great point. Only one 15-yard run, and it's the most Cowboys thing ever because on that 15-yard run, what does Zeke do? Of course, he fumbles it. Yeah. So it's just been it's been tough sledding for him. But he's the type of guy that if there's 3 yards to be had, he's going to get all 3. If there's 1 yard to be had, he's going to get 1, but he's never going to get the 50-yard touchdown, and that's frustrating.
And I just think that a guy that is, and I'm unfairly, measuring this against his contract, but I think there are a lot of guys in the league that if there's 1 yard to get, they'll get the 1 yard. If there's 3, you know what I mean? I just don't think that's special. All right, quickly with the defense, I want to go back to that. I'm curious what you guys think, like, should be or could be their defensive identity. For me, I'm going to go back to the D-line. I don't think they have any talent in the secondary. I think their best secondary player is Trayvon Diggs, who still is developing, and thus it's not good that he's your best secondary player. I love him for the future. I think, like, as far as win now, he's not the guy you need right now to win now. I think their linebackers suck. The only part of their defense where I think there can be some talent and some production is their D-line. If guys we mentioned like Everson Griffin and DeMarcus Lawrence show up, and if Randy Gregory can make an impact to provide Alden Smith some help. And so
he's on the field.
The only thing that I can think of is that maybe they're a team that can somehow figure out a way to create pressure and thus lead to turnovers, whether it's sack fumbles or, quarterbacks forcing passes and turnovers in the secondary, because basically you're getting handed the ball, because we know the secondary isn't going to go out and make a great play. But the only thing I can think of is bend, don't break. And you better hope that your bending and not breaking is because of your pass rush, not because of anyone else making any sort of play for you.
I'll tell you what the identity of this defense is. Busted coverages, and let's just get bullied off the ball at the line of scrimmage, and you can have all the yards. Just run it right down our throats, and we'll just go ahead and let you have it. I think it's sad because after 2018, we were pumped, and the identity of this defense was the 2 linebackers. It was Leighton Vander Esch, who looked like he was about to become one of the best linebackers in football, and it was the one time in Jalen Smith's career that we were feeling good about him. Well, since then, Leighton Vander Esch's career is in jeopardy, in my opinion, because I don't know if he can stay healthy and if that neck will ever hold up. And Jalen Smith should not be a starting linebacker, maybe not even a player in the NFL. He's that bad right now. So the identity, they're searching for it. Quite frankly, they're searching for it on both sides of the football right now. This whole team doesn't have an identity through the first 4 weeks of the season. But the only thing you can hang your hat on is maybe this pass rush eventually gets going, because the secondary stinks. I don't think it's ever going to be good. And the only thing you can fall back on is Alden Smith played well. Maybe you can get Randy Gregory back. And eventually maybe Tank will get so pissed at people talking about where are the sacks, he'll go ahead and get back to his form of double-digit sack seasons that he had in 2017 and 2018 before he just fell off the map.
Courage.
Courageous as hell.
Very courageous, this defense. You have to admire it. They get dominated down in and down out, and they still show up and at least have a uniform and participate in game action Sunday in and Sunday out. And you just have to tip your cap to them, man.
I do think, getting paid a lot of money to do your job, that's very courageous.
It's huge. It's huge. And honestly, Jared, it's not talked about enough. And so I'm glad that we have a platform that allows us to give these guys the compliments they deserve.
I think, I think you look at like Mike Trout, super courageous.
Right.
Pat Mahomes, man, really courageous.
The courage in that guy.
For hugging Stephon Gilmore, for, all that. Okay, Noodles. I think we all love Noodles.
Love Noodles.
Very, very in degrees. So what was it yesterday? It was National Noodle Day. Is that what I'm told? Hold on. The producers, hold on. The producers are speaking. Okay. Yes. So yeah, just confirmed. Yesterday was National Noodle Day.
Nice.
Did they define what sort of noodle? Is it the pool noodle? Is it the trouser noodle? Is it the food noodle?
I believe it was the food noodle.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the pool noodle?
I love the pool noodle. I'll float around on that thing all day.
Do you do you lean over it or do you put it between your legs?
I'm a between the legs guy.
Got it.
Yeah, Walchuk uses it to sort of floss his rear end. I like to use it in a way where it's more of a weapon. You get the water in there and then you blow the water out and you fire it at somebody.
Yeah.
Some of those noodles are, just being honest, this is not no innuendo intended. Some of those noodles are incredibly long. It takes a big blow to get the water all the way through.
Right. Yeah, the girth and the tonnage of some of these noodles cannot be understated.
Now, from a food standpoint, favorite noodle dish?
Oof, man. I'm always for the classic spaghetti and meatballs. I'll tell you an underrated noodle that I have fallen in love with is the vermicelli rice noodles. The very skinny, very thin, Asian noodle. Those are absolutely delicious.
Yeah, I don't really discriminate with the noodles. If we're going to get into the serious pasta conversations, I do have a pasta pro tip. Of course, I'm Italian, and my mom makes unbelievable spaghetti and baked ziti and just any noodle pasta dish you can imagine.
Did you replicate any of these dishes?
Personally, I could not yet, but my cooking skills they're ascending, my friend, and get back to me this time next year and we'll see. But when it comes to the spaghetti in particular, when you're doing the spaghetti, the red sauce, and the meatballs, it's good fresh, don't get me wrong. But that next day, or maybe you made it for lunch and now you're going to reheat and have it for dinner, instead of going in the microwave, you do the heat up in the pan with a little bit of avocado oil or olive oil, something of that nature, and you sort of just fry it up in the pan there. That's how you heat it up. And that leftover fried spaghetti is the goat.
Ah, interesting. Okay. I like that.
Crunchy burnt noodle though? I mean, what kind of temper are we talking here?
No, you're simply just rolling it around, you're bathing it in the oil and you're heating it up. You're not there to grill the thing.
I like it. I'm going to give it a try.
Is penne, is that a noodle or is that pasta? Okay. So is your favorite noodle just the straight spaghetti, or because I like penne?
I think penne is great. I'm a big fan of what's the ones that they're like a screw. The elbow. The elbows, yeah, those are more like macaroni noodles.
Rotini?
Maybe the rotinis. Maybe those are good, and I like angel hair as well. And of course, fettuccine. Can't go wrong with some fettuccine. Yeah. That's a classic. So, I mean, look, I'm with you. I'm not gonna say I don't like all noodles. I do, but for me, just the classic. And I think the first noodle I ever had was the spaghetti noodle.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with pho. Obviously, anyone. Yes. I feel like such a douche every time I say pho because it's like.
You should.
But pho, whatever. You got the noodles in there. I'm a big fan of the pho. I love to.
Have you had udon?
Yeah.
Udon as well. Yeah, those are good noodles.
Yeah. Do we all agree that the classiest of the noodles is the bow tie noodle?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for formal gatherings only.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going a screwdriver.
If you're gonna have a pasta at your wedding, it has to be a bow tie noodle.
Yeah,
just a lot of stabbing that goes on with the bow tie. I like to just get a nice little, you twist. Now you've got a big fork full of some pasta. You shove that thing in, and you got a good bite.
Yeah. All right, just hanging with the Nosebleed Seats, episode 7. Back next week for episode 8. Hopefully Zach hasn't begun his holdout by then, fellas. Talk to you soon.
Adios.